The fall of the Ottoman Empire, the last breath of an empire. You know, sometimes the end of something takes much longer than its beginning. The fall of the Ottoman Empire is exactly that kind of story. This colossal state, which ruled 3 continents for 600 years and held the title of an empire on which the sun never sets, slowly, painfully fell apart. But this is not just a tale of military defeats. It is also a story of a civilization that failed to renew itself, fell behind a changing world, and perhaps most tragically, decayed from within. The end of the Golden Age. In the mid-16th century, the Ottoman Empire reached its peak. During the reign of Suleiman the Magnificent, it pressed all the way to the gates of Vienna, and the Mediterranean was called a Turkish lake. But at that very point, something happened that no one noticed: stagnation. Europe was advancing rapidly while we began falling behind step by step. As they changed, we clung tightly to our traditions. By the 17th century, things were already getting complicated. After the disastrous Second Siege of Vienna in 1683, everyone realized we were not what we used to be. The execution of Kerem Mustafa Pasha was perhaps finding a scapegoat, but the real problem lay much deeper. Europe was experiencing a scientific revolution, and the foundations of the Industrial Revolution were being built. Meanwhile, we were still dealing with the end of the Golden Age. In the mid-16th century, the Ottoman Empire reached its peak. During the reign of Suleiman the Magnificent, it pressed all the way to the gates of Vienna, and the Mediterranean was called a Turkish lake. But at that very point, something happened that no one noticed: stagnation. Europe was advancing rapidly while we began falling behind step by step. As they changed, we clung tightly to our traditions. By the 17th century, things were already getting complicated. After the disastrous Second Siege of Vienna in 1683, everyone realized we were not what we used to be. The execution of Kerem Mustafa Pasha was perhaps finding a scapegoat, but the real problem lay much deeper. Europe was experiencing a scientific revolution, and the foundations of the Industrial Revolution were being built. Meanwhile, we were still dealing with the Timur system, and the Janissaries, now a state within the state, were sabotaging reforms. The sick man syndrome. By the 19th century, things got even worse. The title given to the Ottomans by Tsar Nicholas I said it all: the sick man of Europe. Painful, isn't it? An empire that once shook Europe was now seen as a patient gasping for breath. And the worst part? Everyone was discussing how to divide its inheritance. In this period, a series of territorial losses followed one after another. Greece gained independence, Egypt was practically lost, and uprisings erupted throughout the Balkans. Every loss wasn't just the loss of land. A part of our pride, our identity, was disappearing. The Ottoman Empire's multi-ethnic structure, once a source of strength, had become a headache. As nationalism spread, every community within the empire wanted to establish its own state. Attempts at reform: too little, too late. Of course, we didn't sit idly by. There were modernization efforts that began with Mahmud II and continued with the Tanzimat and Islahat edicts. We abolished the Janissary Corps, created European-style armies, opened schools alongside the madrasas, established a parliament, and declared a constitution. But it was as if we were always one step behind. Something was always missing. On one hand, we tried to reform. On the other hand, we faced resistance from traditionalists. The autocratic rule of Abdul Hamid II may have brought some stability, but it couldn't elevate the country to Europe's level. The Young Turks, the Committee of Union and Progress, they all tried to accomplish something. The constitutional monarchy was declared, then suspended, then reinstated. Amid this chaos, the Ottoman Empire struggled to stand, but it was already exhausted. World War I, the final blow. And then came the disaster, World War I. This adventure, pushed forward by Enver Pasha, became the final death warrant of the 600-year-old empire. We achieved miraculous victories at Gallipoli. Heroes like Mustafa Kemal emerged, but the overall picture was full of disappointment. The Sarakamis catastrophe, the loss of Arab lands, economic collapse, hunger, misery. When the war ended, there was hardly anything left of the Ottoman Empire. With the Armistice of Mondros, Istanbul was occupied. The Treaty of Sèvres even aimed to partition Anatolia. The empire was history. While the sultans sat helplessly in their palaces, a new resistance was rising in Anatolia. Why did it end? Looking back now, one question comes to mind. Why did it happen? The answer cannot be found in a single reason. The Ottomans collapsed because they failed to renew themselves. The education system fell behind the times, and science and technology were not valued. The economy was based on agriculture, while Europe industrialized. Central authority weakened. The provinces became unmanageable, and every local strongman formed his own little domain. But perhaps the most critical reason was that the Ottoman Empire went through an identity crisis. It could neither fully become Western nor remain Eastern. It was stuck in between. We adopted Western armies, but not their mentality. We wanted Western technology, but not the scientific mindset behind it. This half-hearted modernization may have been the greatest tragedy, and we must not forget this. The world was changing. The era of nation-states was beginning. Multi-ethnic empires were approaching their end. Not only the Ottoman Empire, but also Austria-Hungary and the Russian Empire collapsed in the same period. History was opening a new page, and the Ottomans could not find a place on that page. Final words. The fall of the Ottoman Empire is still a painful topic for us, because it was not just the end of a state, it was the end of a civilization, a lifestyle, perhaps even a source of pride. But this end was also a beginning. From its ashes rose the Republic of Turkey, and a new nation was built. Today, when we look back, we should neither idealize the Ottomans nor condemn them entirely. They were a product of their time, an empire that survived for 6 centuries and left its mark on 3 continents. But the world changed, the Ottomans could not, and they were swept into the dusty pages of history. Maybe the greatest lesson is this: to stop is to fall behind, and to reject change is an invitation to collapse. The Ottomans stagnated, but the world kept turning.